Hi. Um, I'm sharing the whole desktop, so you're going to be seeing all sorts of junk, lots of junk. And I'm going to be clicking on hyperlinks. That's the entire reason I'm sharing the entire desktop for this presentation, because this is very article heavy. Don't panic when you see how many tabs I have open. Okay. Um, it's a lot. It's a lot. And I know that. And a bunch of them I'm going to close after this. I tried to keep the ones open that we're going to be covering in the course or in this presentation. But it's also highly possible that that was a mistake and that when I click it, it's going to open a whole new. Uh, but we'll find out, won't we? So this is going to be mostly current news events. And then, of course, Facebook myths. It's not only Facebook, but I don't have a better title for that. Saying social media myths is a little much. So, okay, here we go. Now, what's going on? Current topics. We're going to talk about some current topics, some actual news, and then I'm going to talk about some not actual news, otherwise known as Facebook myths. I'm going to tell you at the end of this why it's so important and to understand your sources and that kind of thing. And I don't know, it's just extremely helpful. Oh, and the reason it says mostly current is because I have some older articles that I also include in here. So here we go. Food related. These are some interesting ones. All three of these are older articles, but they all pertain to the consumption of pork. Am I saying you should not eat pig? No, if you want to eat pig, eat pig. I really don't care what you put in your body. But these are interesting stories. So we're about to test this hyperlink thing out. Yeah, skip it. Yeah, I think it is going to open brand new ones each time. But anyway, so what this article is it's telling you all about hundreds of these worms found in a guy's brain, and they believe that it probably came from undercooked pork. Pork contains a lot of not great for you, and that's why they tell you to thoroughly cook it before you consume it. This one is about a man in Austin. That's why it says Austin man, who had, again, a tapeworm in his brain, and they believe it's based on the pork. I'm not going to worry about opening it. I'm trying not to overdo it. And the more current ones I want to really cover. So, but I am going to show you these. So if you download this PowerPoint, you can have all these hyperlinks and it'll take you everywhere. So this one is just telling you the risks and that, yes, you can, but it needs to be thoroughly cooked, because this right here is the type of roundworm that is found in pork. So again, if you want to eat pork, that's fine, but you need to seriously, seriously, seriously cook it. Yeah. And that cross-contamination thing, it's a real thing. So be careful. Uh, yeah, that's pretty much it. Feel free to even just Google about how to make pork safe if you want to keep eating pork. But just know that this really is a thing, and I want you to be careful. Okay? Now, this current news. I will just recap these without clicking on them because I just want to talk about it real quick. So, pig gestation crates. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of a pig gestation crate. This goes into the whole animal rights, animal welfare thing. A lot of people use those terms interchangeably, and they are not the same thing. So, animal rights means that the animal has exactly the same rights as a human. And so, if you say, I am an animal rights advocate, what you're saying is you don't eat meat, you do not use anything that's made from animal skin, so no leather, and you don't even have a house pet because you shouldn't own another human, so you shouldn't own an animal. That's what animal rights technically means. Animal welfare is you want to make sure that they are cared for properly. So this would be like you understand that animal testing, for medical is necessary, because you can't just go straight from computer to human and think everything's going to be fine. It has to go through stages. Or it could be you like to eat a burger, and but you just think the cow should be treated properly before you slaughter it and grind it up to eat it. That's the welfare part. So that's what pig gestation crates are based on, is the animal welfare. What happens here is there are farmers. This also happens in the pet industry, called, if you've ever heard of a puppy mill, that's what that is, where they just keep breeding the female, having her pump out litters of puppies to make as much money as possible until she just dies. Pig gestation crates, it's the same. They take the sow, the big mommy pig, they lock her up in a cage that she can't even turn around in. She's just trapped. They impregnate her. She has the babies, and then they take the babies once they get big enough, and then they impregnate her again. So this sow never leaves the crate. She is just trapped there. Her entire job is to make more pigs for the pork industry. And I find it rather appalling. And there are different companies who utilize the farms that do the pig gestation crates. And so that's what all of this is about. The last one, the wet markets and wildlife trafficking dangers. Anyone who read anything about COVID and the coronavirus and the fact that it probably came from the market in China, it's not the first time something like this has happened. Anywhere where you have live animals mushed up together, you have the possibility of what's known as a spill, where their illness can spill over and become a human illness. And these markets are known for that, because they're not only bringing in the healthiest of creatures, they're, bringing them all in. So I don't know, it's like a smorgasbord of germs. It's never going to be the healthy choice. And that leads to a lot of stuff. The wildlife trafficking dangers. This is going to be where, if you want an exotic pet, like you want a macaw, that fancy bird. If you want a lionfish or any of those things, you have to research where they actually came from, because sometimes they just go out there and catch them and then bring them over, and that can bring in disease, but it's also taking animals out of their natural habitat, and it disrupts the entire ecosystem. All right. Now for super current. FDA. Since we were talking about food things, I mean, the gestation crates and then the worms and stuff, figured I would mention about the FDA. FDA stands for the Food and Drug Administration. And most of us don't tend to think about it very much, because we just trust that what we're purchasing is healthy. Then you will see that recall where they're like, oh, we have to recall all of this, I don't know, spinach from this company because there's a listeria outbreak, or there's E. coli in this romaine lettuce, or they did a recall on some meat not too long ago. And then there was one where they recalled all these chicken nuggets and stuff. So it's both in animal product and plant product. But if we are supposed to consume it, they are supposed to be making sure the people who are processing it are following the rules to make it as clean and healthy as possible, so we don't get food poisoning. They also are the ones who look at the various medications, the drugs that are being okay to come out, or they're saying, no, there needs to be more testing, because nothing is perfect. That's why we have the various, I'm blanking on the right word, organization, in order to keep an eye on things. And so where food is concerned, that would be the FDA. So my first thing when I was updating this PowerPoint was, well, how much did they actually help in 2024? So I figured that's a good place to start. So here you go. Food recalls in the US were more widespread and deadly in 2024. So this article came out just a few days ago. And that's why I figured let's take a look. Not going to read all of it. Not going to read all of it. Just pointing out here, there we go. This is where I was going. Would you go away? So fewer recalls, but more hospitalizations and deaths happened. And so here we go. That's all I want you to see. You can look at more, and if you want the links, again, it's in the PowerPoint, and go away. It's in the PowerPoint that I'm giving you that's posted, or you can just ask me and I'll give you the articles. But we had fewer recalls in 2024, 5% fewer recalls than previously. However, we had more illnesses, hospitalizations, and way more deaths. So the issues that happened were pretty bad, and it was from contaminated food. And this is so annoying. And that's what I want you to take a note of. And this is why listeria is one of the things I mentioned. That's what it was. It was the Boar's Head deli meat. I knew it was some kind of meat. But this happens, and that's why we have the FDA. The FDA's job is to make sure that all the places are being looked at, everybody is following protocols. And then if they get a report that, hey, this tested with XYZ, or these people get sick and they report it, they go to the hospital reports it, and then the FDA goes to the company and then they post it. And we are all told, hey, there's a recall. If you have the Boar's Head deli meat that's dated from here to here, there's a recall. You might get sick. That's what the FDA does. That's kind of important. So since we have the FDA, we're good, right? Well, not really. I am sure you have been keeping track of the news. I'm hoping you have been keeping track of the news, and there have been layoffs all over the place. Right now, one of the biggest ones is the FDA. So the guy who has been running the FDA lost so many people. He only had 2,000 people to begin with, and 89 of them got fired. And he said, it doesn't make sense for me to keep trying to run this when I don't have enough people to actually do it. And so we are actually losing some of the people who are keeping an eye on the safety of our food. I'm not even talking about the medications right now. I'm literally just talking about food, because when we had an uptick in deaths from foodborne illnesses last year, I kind of think we really need to be careful about our food. Where the E. coli and stuff is concerned, where it's like onions was on that last one, where it said onions had been infected. And we've had a lot of times where it was spinach or romaine. If it's produce, you can help yourself at home by making sure you thoroughly cleanse your produce. Wash it, even if it says that it's been washed. Do a better washing. And that does not mean just rinse it with water. If you do like water and a little bit of vinegar, that helps. But you can thoroughly wash your produce. You can make sure to peel and not use the outer parts of your produce. But if you consume meat and it's contaminated, there's nothing you can do to protect yourself from that other than don't eat the meat. So we kind of need the FDA to keep you safe. I myself do not eat meat, and so it's not really a concern of mine, but my kids do. And so I try to talk to them about keeping an eye out on that kind of thing. But if you are not aware of this, this is something to pay attention to, because if we don't have people watching over us, or not watching over us specifically, but watching over the places that are making our food and packaging our food, And that's a little scary. Okay, I've got a few videos here. I am not playing them in this presentation. You can, but these are embedded videos. So if you download this PowerPoint and then click on them, you can watch the videos. But these are basically, I know that I end up talking about meat glue, and I don't think that's what that one is, but it might be. So all of these right here, these are based on the clean meat and various, well, I don't know how to rephrase it, so I'm just going to tell you. So they have found in ground beef and a lot of other things, there is an acceptable percentage of fecal matter. If you do not know what fecal matter is, that means basically poop. So when they slaughter the cow, they just slice that sucker open and then, flay it and take out what they need. And because you're doing this, one of the things you're cutting through is the intestines, which is full of poop. And you can't always get everything cleaned off. And so there is an acceptable amount of fecal material in your processed meat. The government has decided below a certain amount is perfectly fine. And so there you go. We also have issues where certain companies will mass feed antibiotics to their feed animals because it's to the pigs, the cows, the chickens, because the idea, I'm guessing, is that if they give them antibiotics, then they won't get sick. But that's not how it works. Because if you overuse antibiotics, then you end up getting antibiotic resistant strains of things. This is why you will also notice some packages of meat, like Purdue Chicken, has a sign on there that says no antibiotics ever and no hormones ever, because other ones will also use growth hormones to make them bigger. And so if you're going to consume meat, I highly, highly, highly recommend getting the ones that are certified organic, because certified organic means they're not putting anything else into the animal. And so you're literally just getting the animal muscle to eat. You're not getting extra stuff. It's just the healthier choice if you're going to choose to eat meat. Stem cell burger. There are companies who are trying to take like the cells of an animal and grow the muscle that people eat. So if you were not aware that when you eat a steak, that is just a muscle from a cow, and that if you're eating a pork chop, that is muscle from a pig. If you're eating a chicken wing, that is a muscle from a chicken. So the meat you're consuming is just muscle. And so you have companies who are trying to create the muscle outside of the animal so then they can make more meat without having to raise more animals. And then you don't have to slaughter more animals, so then it's actually cleaner. And in this process, they can even actually make it where it's a healthier meat, lower in fat, so then it's healthier for your heart and your own circulatory system. And if you have any questions about this, seriously ask me, because I also have a master's in nutritional science, and I can tell you how the various things are affecting your health. So just so you know. The reason a lot of companies are trying to find a better way to make meat for people is because they know people want the meat. They wish to eat the meat. But we are losing a lot of extremely important land in order to raise more cattle for more people to eat. And the amount of land, food, and water that goes into one cow would feed so many families, and a cow feeds less. And so we are putting resources that could save so much, that would feed so many more people, that would help way more people than one cow will feed. And it's just not a wise resource choice. The other part is And I keep saying cows because this is the big one. That's where we're losing the most land. And cows also emit a lot of methane, which is a very potent greenhouse gas. We talked about that in the presentation about global warming, and the different resources and stuff. So that's why they're trying so hard. There is a company called Alpha. They have fake chicken nuggets, and I actually kind of like them. I think they're pretty good. And they, I believe, also made, or actually, I think maybe the brand is Just, and Alpha is the chicken they make. But they have where they have successfully used cells from a chicken who is alive to make chicken meat, and they made actual chicken nuggets from the cells from a chicken that's walking around. So they never killed the chicken, but they were able to make chicken from the chicken. It's kind of cool. And that's one of these hyperlinks. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, totally download this, go to these articles. This is about meat glue. This is another one about meat glue. So what the meat glue is they take, when they're butchering and they're shaving parts of the steak off, that's leftover meat. And there is this, I'm going to say chemical, but it's not that it's a fake chemical. It's derived from plasma and blood and stuff like that, from like pigs, chickens, cows, whatnot. But it's kind of toxic for you to inhale. So the first video, it actually shows somebody using it, and they give you the talk and the whole mask. This one is a guy who does barbecuing, and he himself gets the meat glue, this powder, and he creates his own better steak with the bits of steak using the meat glue. The reason this is a concern, a couple of things. One, if you want to just talk economics alone, if you're paying good money for a fillet and what you receive is not a fillet, I'd be mad. They take the parts of the steaks, shake this powder on it, roll it up tight, put it in the fridge. And then the powder stuff basically makes it all connect together. Because, I mean, it's coagulant. And so it helps it stick together. So then it looks like a fillet. One of the things, because I talked to my kids about this, because my oldest will still always have a steak. He loves steak, and he loves his steak very, very rare. And that's when it becomes a danger. If you are cooking your steak well done, you don't have to worry as much about the meat glue unless you have an allergy or you are of a religion or culture that does not consume pork products, because it is possible that the glue was derived from a pig. So if you're in a religion or you are in a culture that forbids or stays away from pork products, then you have to be worried about this. If, like I was saying, if you cook things totally well done, it's not a concern because you have killed everything in there. Most people don't do a steak completely overly well done. They tend to have a little pink in it, or like my son, very, very rare. That's when it becomes dangerous, because a true steak, you have just the surface area that will have the bacteria. So you slap it on the grill, it kills this bacteria. You slap it on the grill, it kills that bacteria. And then it's safe because everything inside was never touched. So there's no bacteria in there. But if you take pieces of meat and then stick them all together, you have now trapped all that bacteria inside, which is proliferating. And then if it's not heat killed all the way through, then you risk, again, a foodborne illness. You just don't want that. It's the same reason why you should never have a burger or anything that's ground beef, anything less than well done, because all those tiny little balls of beef are coated in bacteria, and then you put it together, and what's on here kills the outside bacteria, but what's inside full of bacteria. So if you eat burgers like cow burgers or whatever ground animal burgers, you should always have it well done. So you've killed all the bacteria inside. So that's the recap on the meat glue stuff. All right. Here's our very current stuff. This is what I wanted to make sure we had time to cover. All right. Air pollution. Air pollution is a real thing. It's dangerous. So I provided this article in order to give you a clue. So this is talking about air pollution related deaths. There's other stories here, but I wanted to just point this out. Notice 2024, I looked for the most recent articles here. So you can't say, oh, but we're so much better. And hopefully you'll also notice that I go to a lot of different sources. I try really hard for that. And yeah, so air pollution, the greatest single environmental health risk. This is the number one health risk. We have people who die of air pollution because of what it does to your body over the time. So if you look down here, 1.9 million people die every year from heart disease, just under 1 million from strokes due to outdoor air pollution alone. Then you have people like me who have asthma. My lungs are crap and I do what I can to take care of them. But the more junk in the air, the worse it is. There's no surprise that if you look at the rates of, we'll say, yeah, go ahead and look at it for heart disease, strokes, asthma, and I don't know. I was going to say aging, but you can't really look at that easily. But air pollution affects how your face ages too. And then look at the increasing of air pollution. You will also see the cities that have higher rates of air pollution have higher rates of these diseases as well. It's because our bodies are not designed to filter out that much crap. So there you go. Now, when we're talking about air pollution and the environment, we need to talk about the EPA. The EPA stands for the Environmental Protection Agency. This is a government organization that was designed, I believe it was from Richard Nixon in the early 70s. It would have been in the timeline presentation in the very first week. But he created the EPA because they recognized that we were killing the environment. And if we want healthy people, we need healthy environment. That's also why I had you guys answer about the anthropomorphic or anthrocentric, biocentric, or ecocentric, because people cannot survive without the environment. If our environment goes down, so do we. The environment will live past humanity. And that's what I'm always hoping people will notice, because while people want to say, but we're the most important thing, watch the Lorax, dude. Once we don't have air we can breathe, we're dead. When we don't have water we can drink, we're dead. When we don't have plants for either us to eat or the food you eat to eat, we're dead. An unhealthy environment will kill humanity faster than anything else. That's why we got the Environmental Protection Agency, was to try to make sure people didn't make bad choices for the environment so humanity could actually succeed. So with our new administration, we have now new people in almost everything. So I decided we should take a look at the new head of the EPA. So the new head of the EPA is Lee Zeldin. There's a lot of concern for the people of in the environmental group because of this. The main reason is because he's kind of a big oil guy. He has never been for protecting the environment. And this right here is one of the biggest ones that makes it concerning that he's the one in charge of the EPA. So in 2022, when he was trying to become governor of New York, he said he was going to get rid of the ban on oil and gas drilling. That's called fracking. What fracking is, I used to have articles in here about fracking, but I got rid of them so I could do more updated stuff. I talked about it in the energy PowerPoint too. Fracking is where they take water to fracture the earth in order to obtain more resources. So you're losing the water while you're pulling more stuff out of the planet. And this is something he's for, and it's something that's really bad for the environment. And so when you pick somebody to protect the environment who doesn't really want to protect the environment, it gets scary. The one hopeful thing is here, where he says that he does believe climate change is real. But we're going to see. We're going to see. He's here stating that an ideal world would be able to pursue always the cleanest, greenest energy sources possible. But, oh yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. So then I decided, let's see what he's saying. So I went straight to the EPA website, where February 4th, he's telling you things. And I highly suggest everybody go to the official websites and to the White House website, whitehouse.gov, in order to best educate yourself. Don't pick only one source, though, not even if it's the EPA website or the whitehouse.gov website. Look at other sources too, put them all together. So this is when he was pulled in as the one to run EPA, and these are what he's saying he's going to do. So he's saying that the pillar one is clean air, land, and water for every American, but he doesn't say how he's going to do this. Restore American energy dominance. Right here with the put gas in the cars, gas is what we're supposed to be moving away from. That is obtained from oil, and I have more to say on that in a moment. Here where it says to ensure producing and developing the cleanest energy on the planet. This would be wonderful. If we could do this, that would be helpful. Because if the US would really buckle down and go 100% for the cleanest energy on the planet, we could do phenomenal things. We could bring some of this stuff down. We could be a pillar to be looked up to. But I'm coming back to that too in a little bit. So this is more going on that. But this right here is one of those that I have a very big concern about, where it says to make the United States the artificial intelligence capital of the world. And I'm going to tell you why I have a very big concern for this, especially on the EPA website. So he mentions AI. So that's what we're going to look at now. I don't know if anybody is aware of how much energy and water is used for AI. So all these people who are just having a blast using AI for stupid pictures or using ChatGPT because they don't want to actually use their brain and learn how to write, or they don't want to read articles, and so they're relying on AI to recap, which, by the way, don't do that. For like a movie synopsis, maybe, but for science, you're not always getting accurate information. So please, for the love of God, don't do this. AI uses more energy than anything else, and it is not renewable resources. And it also uses millions of gallons of water to cool the computers that are running in order to do AI. So to try to make America the #1 AI place, that is the exact opposite of protecting our environment. So this is very scary. If you think I'm full of crap, please do more research. Look up what it takes to run AI. It's the same issue I had with cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency was also horrible for the environment. People were trying to say it's good for the environment. We're not printing money. But then they didn't look at how much energy was being pulled for it. And yeah, so this not a good thing for us. So for AI to be mentioned on the EPA website as something is a goal, that is the opposite of what is protecting our environment. But look at that, our link about weather. This is the article that I was providing for your discussion, which I will show you here because this is important and it's one of these 8 million articles. This one. Woohoo, good for me. So this is the article that's in your discussion where scientists have a new explanation for the last 2 years of record heat. You have hopefully noticed that the past 2 summers have been the hottest ever. So the summer of 2023 was the hottest in recorded history. And then 2024 happened and it was hotter. And they're predicting 2025 is going to be even hotter. And it's because of one of the reasons, the lack of cloud cover. We're losing our clouds. And a lot of this has to do with climate change, our global warming, and what we are doing. And there's a chart here. There we go. So this increased rate of global warming. Yes, since industrialization, we've been going up. But then we have been seriously going up, like seriously going up. And it just keeps getting worse because of the crap we're throwing into the air. And so this is a very important topic. The only way we can keep having all the power we want is to have renewable resources. And so there is a thing called clean energy, which is like the wind and solar energy. But our current administration is trying to get rid of it. I am not sure what he has against wind energy, but in his first term, he also attacked the wind power. I don't know why. The only thing I remember is there was an article during the first term where he stated something about the wind turbines giving you ear cancer, and that is not accurate. I'm not sure what is the big deal, but right now we're talking about getting rid of a lot of our stuff. So here we go. In the first 2 weeks of his return as president, issued orders to open up more American land and waters for fossil fuel extraction, and then pulled us from the Paris Climate Agreement again. Quote, said, we will drill, baby, drill, because he's trying to get us more oil. But then has also jumped in there and started blocking any of the clean energy development. This one. So federal land is now not allowed to lease to solar or wind power, but can be, I'm trying not to use biased terms here. It's not a good term that was in my head, so I was like catching it before it came out. Dug into, there we go, that's a friendly phrase, to get more oil from. He declared there was an energy emergency. There is no energy emergency. The only energy emergency is the fact that we are running out of oil on the entire planet. That means we need to move away from oil in order to be prepared when there isn't any. And there is no such thing as good, clean coal. We covered that in the energy PowerPoint. Coal is not clean at all, never is. Here is, so you know I'm not just BSing you about it. where he refers to wind energy as disgusting. They do not kill whales. Yes, there were bird deaths originally, and there probably still will be, but birds also die by running into skyscrapers and airplanes. So, you can't help that. So this entire article is about that. I do highly recommend reading it, whether you are pro or con current administration. This is a very educational about clean energy, and everybody should be aware of the clean energy part. Now, why am I saying that about oil? Because we live in a country that is like, woohoo, oil, all day, every day. By God, that's how we made our money. That's how we're going to keep making our money. But my car has this, blah, 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 blah. The reason is because we are running out of oil. Literally, at the current rate of consumption, we've got about 47 years left of oil. Let that sink in. If we have not found and switched over to something in the next decade or so, it's going to be so low, those prices are going to skyrocket. The answer to not going broke is to learn how to switch now. Because when we have less and less oil, you have to understand it's supply and demand, baby. It's going to cost so much more. Pulling more out when it's a limited source, we're going to run out. Will it run out in my lifetime? Maybe, maybe not. I'm hoping to live to 111 and I am 53 right now, so it might. Will it run out in your lifetime? Probably. Yeah, it is probably your lifetime where we will have sucked the entire planet dry and there will be no choice anymore. That's important. So I wanted to show you here who has most of the oil currently. So in 2016, this is how many barrels they had. We are down here. So we've got 2.1% of the world's oil. This is, I believe, why he's saying that, because I think he wants us to have a higher percentage. But where he's trying to get it from are more ancestral lands, more natural lands, protected ecosystems, because we've already sucked every other area dry. We can't make more oil. More oil will be made in a few million years when we're all dead and we have become the oil. But this was a limited source to begin with, and it's getting more and more limited. And so spending the amount of money and destroying the planet even more to get more of what we're running out of, when we could just switch, this makes no logical sense to me. Not to mention the burning of the oil is part of what's doing all the air pollution, which is also causing the global warming, which is, the greenhouse effect, which we covered in the previous lecture. It just makes no sense. It really doesn't. This is why I said I'm giving you some fodder for your papers. All right. These are just some fun little true stories if you want to look at them. It's some cute things. It is some positive things. Yay. So they've got some stuff where they're trying to clean some of the carbon dioxide out of the oceans, because the ocean is an area that pulls in a lot of carbon dioxide. The coral reef helps clean a lot of it, but we're killing our coral reefs currently because of our temperature changing. We've got oceans off the coast of Florida that are like in the upper, or I was starting to say the upper 90s, but it's actually in the low 100s, like 102, 103, I think is what it was. And the coral reef is very delicate. So some areas of our ocean have gotten too warm and the coral reefs are dying and bleaching out. Others are too acidic because of stuff we've been pumping into the ocean, and then they're bleaching and dying out. And so there are companies who are trying to create things to help pull it out, because we have to get some of the carbon dioxide out of the air. Okay, health. We're getting there, man. We're getting there. So, one of the things I have heard so many times that I want to scream at people is how about the price of eggs? This was one of the big things in November that people said influenced which side they were voting. Um, the president is not in charge of the price of eggs. And so I really didn't ever consider the price of eggs as a concern. Grocery prices are based on supply and demand and the companies that own them. So if you are upset about the price of eggs being high, it is either the company who's purchasing them or the fact that we don't have enough. That is where this comes in. So the avian flu, this is what's causing us to run out of eggs right now. We literally have a bird flu that's going all over the place. It's killing the birds. So as we're killing the chickens, we're running out of, we don't have the eggs. Literally all that's happening here. So that's, this whole article is all about the H5N1, the bird flu that's wreaking havoc right now. It's also spreading over different things. We have had a few cases. I can't remember if one of the articles is based on this. I'll tell you about it in a bit. Yeah, I don't think I have it on there. So we have cases where people who work with farm animals are contracting it. So we have had the avian flu we have found in some of the dairy farms. So some of the dairy cattle have caught the avian flu. Some of the people who work with the dairy cattle have caught the avian flu from them. And most recently, and I meant to put the article on here, but I forgot. So feel free to Google it. Some of these people who contracted the avian flu have spread it to their pet cats at home. So we are watching it spread from species to species. That's concerning. So while it's frustrating that the price of eggs is high, maybe take a step back, quit worrying about money, and look at the health implications. We have all already lived through a pandemic. I don't think we want that again. So we need to be paying attention to the fact that this flu is jumping species. Is it highly contagious? No, not yet. But we kind of need to keep an eye on it because it's now gone from birds to cows to humans to cats. That means it is really good at adjusting. So tuberculosis isn't actually mentioned in this one. I just really liked labeling it as flu, measles, and tuberculosis. Oh my, it's actually about the avian flu, the regular flu, and measles. Tuberculosis is mentioned in this one. But I'm going to go ahead and show you this one. So right now we are having the worst flu season in ages. I just told you about the new bird flu cases. We have our regular flu, influenza, is skyrocketing. I cannot remember which county or state it was. I want to say it was New York. I read a lot of news articles, and so some of the details kind of get blended. So again, feel free to Google. Very recently, like in the last week or so, there was a public school that was closed because they didn't have enough people to run the school because of the number of people who had the flu. This is the reason we have things like the flu vaccine, is for this reason. One of the things that happens a lot is people swear they don't need to get the vaccine, or I don't like needles. And it's a rather selfish way to look at it because you're not getting the vaccine just for yourself. You are getting it to protect those around you. So say that you have a grandmother that you really like and she's in her 80s. And you say, I don't want to get the flu vaccine because it makes me feel bad, or I don't like needles. You might get exposed to it and just be a little, but you might give the flu to your grandmother and kill her. People die of the flu every year, and not just a small amount. My boyfriend's son was in his 20s and died of flu B back in 2020. Not COVID, died of flu B. I would end up in the emergency room 3 to 4 times a year during flu season, having to get breathing treatments because it turns out that is connected to asthma and lung health. Once I started getting the flu vaccine, because a nurse at the hospital told me I should get it solely for the lungs, I started getting the flu vaccine every year. I have not had to go back to the emergency room for breathing issues during flu season since then. So, I mean, I'm telling you, it does help. There's no reason we should have this. We have a measles outbreak, huge measles outbreak. Quite a few different towns in Texas are just the most outrageous measles outbreaks ever. That's scary. Measles is not a joke. Kids can die. So that brings me here. 5 infectious diseases to keep an eye on in 2025. This is a very big concern because, again, we have a new person in the head of our Health and Human Services Department, and it's Robert F. Kennedy. And he pretty much is an anti-vaccine person. And I cannot stress this enough. If you have concerns or don't understand how vaccines work, like truly understand, please ask me. I teach on this. I am a biology professor. I teach this stuff. I've got the master's in nutritional science. I can answer questions about health. I teach about vaccines. I do an entire presentation on vaccines. I know how they are made and how they're supposed to work. That's why I'm talking about vaccines in this presentation, because there is so much misinformation about them. Please ask me and become educated on them. So this one, bird flu, straight up telling you we need to keep an eye on it. I know 66 cases does not sound much, but there were 66 cases in humans last year. And the first one who got it died. This is increasing. So while the risk at the moment is low, we need to keep an eye out for it because, again, like I told you just a moment ago, they're now finding it where it went from bird to cow to person to cat. So it is spreading. The measles, that's what I was telling you about right here. Fewer people are having their kids get vaccinated for measles, and now we're seeing the repercussions of that. So we're going higher, and I'm coming to that too. Polio. Polio is making a comeback, which is really terrifying. Mpox. This one was coming up a couple of years ago, and now higher and higher. And so we need to be considered with that. This last one is one where we're just trying to keep an eye on things because there is always something developing. This is not a fear thing. This is just a fact. This is basic science. This is basic evolution. This is what happens. If an animal has something, it can then change. You keep an eye on it. Nobody saw COVID coming until it smacked us and knocked us down and killed millions upon millions of people. So they're keeping an eye on a lot of little pathogens and a lot of things to make sure. Now, since I said that about measles, we have the outbreak map. So I wanted to show you this. Texas measles outbreak nearly doubles in a week to 90 cases. And so this is just telling you about it right here, because this is a Texas website, article thing to see Austin. This is a Texas one. So there are measles outbreaks throughout the US. This is just focused on Texas. And so it's showing you the maps of where they are. But I like this because it's also telling you what to look for, because this is what it looks like. It is spread by just anything coming out of your mouth, whether it is a sneeze, a cough, or just talking. It is a respiratory thing. People do die from measles. There is no health benefit to having measles. None. So this is totally preventable for people who are now getting it. So am I scared? Yes, I am petrified as to what's coming. Mainly because of who I am, what I've seen, and what I've studied. This is why I keep telling you to challenge yourself for all of your beliefs. If you believe vaccines are good, challenge yourself, look it up, research them, find out so you can back up yourself where you're like, oh, yeah. If you think vaccines are bad, challenge yourself, research it, find out. If you feel like, hey, I'm healthy, so I think I'll just risk it, that's fine, but know that you're risking every single person you come in contact with. So if you have an old grandma, you're risking her life. If you have a friend who just had a baby, you're risking the baby's life. I wish more Americans would quit being so selfish and thinking about only themselves and the uncomfortable moment for themselves when they could be helping protect other people. I am very much an empathetic person, and I think we should actually care about everyone and not just ourselves and not just our bank account. And so a lot of what I say is based on caring about other people. I challenge every single person to look at what they say they are. If you say, I am this kind of a person, is that actually how you're behaving? Are your choices matching that? I'm trying really hard not to say specific things here. So if you want to know what I'm talking about, feel free to message me and I'll tell you. Okay. Now, misinformation. I told you the misinformation was coming. We're getting close. So misinformation. Misinformation can do so much more damage than no information at all. So a good example, I'm using vaccines. There was an article, one article that came out quite some time ago that vaccines caused autism. And a lot of people then decided they would rather risk their child dying of a disease than have autism. And so they stopped vaccinating. I have huge issue with this because one, it was one article, which was then recanted. It was disproven. It was shown it was faulty research, and it has been disproven. I can't even tell you how many times that vaccines do not cause autism, but people keep quoting that one article that has been debunked. So that is a case where misinformation does way more damage. The other thing is the fact that people think that autism is so bad that they'd rather risk their child dying. I am autistic. So when you use autism as an excuse, you're telling me you would rather me have died than be who I am. You would rather risk your child or yourself dying than be someone like me. So do I take this as a personal affront? Oh, yeah. And don't even try to say, well, that's not what I'm saying. That is exactly what a person is saying when they say they're not vaccinating because they might have autism. That is exactly what you're saying. So think it through before you say it. Now, I post this a lot. There are so many actual facts out there. If people would just stop being lazy, would research and read the actual article, not watch a YouTube summary, not just follow whatever influencer who says what you want to hear, not just look at the little blurbs on Google, and not trust AI. But if people would stop being lazy and do research, go to multiple sources, read the information for yourself, ask questions if you don't understand, we could actually be a much better educated society. This I keep saved in my phone, in my computer, in the photos. So when I know somebody who has just totally posted something without checking on it, I post this 100%. Because a lot of people will share something without fact checking it. Don't do that, because then people believe you. Anytime you just go, oh, that makes sense, click share, you are adding to the problem. Before you hit that share button, if it's not something you already know 100% and you have fact checked, you need to fact check it before you share it. Don't be lazy. Quit that. Try to make us a more educated society. Let Americans actually sound like they have a brain, because currently we don't. If you have any friends or know anyone who lives outside of the US, take a look at how much we are a laughing stock right now. We are not a well-educated society, and it keeps getting worse. And a lot of it is because we're just lazy. This is why I keep on you in the class about giving me your opinion and backing it up. This is why I push you, and I'm probably irritating the crap out of some people, because I do have friends all over this planet. And I ask them what is being said. I ask them to show me what's in the news. And we are currently a laughing stock because of the things people are saying. So please learn. I would rather us be known as a smart nation. That would make me feel very happy. So, let's see if this link still works. If not, then I'll tell you. Oh yeah, this one. So this one has posted a bunch. This is dated 2014, but I've seen it a lot. It's saying I don't want to. But basically what this article is, if you take a look, it's showing you the that whole, did you know that KFC is now called KFC instead of Kentucky Fried Chicken? Do you know why? It's because it's not real chicken anymore. And then they show you a picture of something with like 3 sets of wings, or a chicken that has no head. It's the most ridiculous things. That's fake. Is Kentucky Fried Chicken good, healthy chicken? I don't know. I don't eat there. But it's not a mutant chicken. Has the food industry done stuff to chickens to make larger chickens? Yes. But it's not to what the pictures that were getting shared. Where it says, but some are true, sadly, this has to do with the guy who ran, I almost had the name. I started to say Papa John's. That is not the right one. Jimmy John's. There you go. Jimmy John's, the guy who ran Jimmy John's, he was using the money to go hunt endangered animals. And I'm not clicking on it because I really don't want to look at the pictures right now, but feel free, go to it. There's pictures of him where he's like standing there with his gun, with his foot on an elephant that he shot. And then like with a jaguar where he's holding the dead animal up like this and things like that. And that's why I boycotted Jimmy John's. I don't think he's with Jimmy John's anymore, but he was using the money in order to go kill endangered animals. I didn't want my money going there. And he moved the base of operations from wherever it had been to Florida, because Florida had, I don't know the right phrasing for this, but they had tax laws that were beneficial to the corporation, not to the employee. And I did not like the way the business was conducted. So there are horrible stories that if you check might be true, might not be true, but don't share them without knowing. There's also, I think I'm going to do one about, there's one where it talks about the fake sugar, and it's aspartame. And this one goes around every year where it's like, this person knows this person who knows this person who, when they quit consuming aspartame, suddenly this disease, this, it's a load of crap. Is aspartame healthy? No, but it doesn't cause all the issues people are saying. If you have this one particular disorder, yes, it'll cause those issues, which is why it says in tiny print on there. I want to say it has, I think the initials are PKU, but it tells you about it because there's a certain number of people in the US that have this disorder. And so anything that contains this one particular chemical will give you bad reactions. That's all that is. I have this here to show you how misinformation can also take place. That's why it says, what is wrong with this? So this one, it's talking about death toll. And here it's showing you the coronavirus. It's showing you that it's this tiny little amount, that we have very few things dead. And it's saying, see, this came from an article that was like, see, it's really not as bad as you say. This was from 2020. But it's not valid, because if you look, like this one's also not valid. This one, there's 1 year. This one, 2 years. This one, 1 year. 2 years. This one right here, it's telling you it's 3 years, 200 million dead. You can't compare something closed with something that's still happening. COVID actually beat the others, and bubonic plague still happens to this day. So we still have cases of bubonic plague every summer, mostly in Colorado. The issue is we now know what it is, and so now we can treat it. Same thing for most of these others. We now understand what it is. We can recognize it. This was totally done to minimize and to make it look like it wasn't that big a deal. You will find infographics that purposely skew things to make things look a certain way. So you have to be careful with it. That's why I'm talking about that. Oh, here's where I say the artificial sweetener story. I just talked about that. There's a stupid thing about Red Bull. I don't know if you've heard it. One of the ones for Red Bull, people will say is, did you hear that they get the guanine for Red Bull is from bull urine or bull semen, and that's the reason it's got the name Red Bull? That's a load of crap. Like, seriously. But it's something that people will say over and over again. The love bugs. If you're in the South, you've heard of the love bugs. You've seen the love bugs. And when I first moved to South Georgia, because I now live in Atlanta, but when I was in South Georgia, I had never seen them before. And I asked somebody, like, oh, those are love bugs. And I was like, well, what are love bugs? I was told this huge, incredible story about the University of Florida, and they were trying to create something that would mate with the mosquitoes in order to make the mosquitoes population die out. But then these things went crazy, and now you've just got these love bugs everywhere, and it's a whole totally different menace. And I believed them. So I'm like, okay, sure. And then I told people the same thing, until one day I went, wait a minute. What sense does this make? They don't look anything like mosquitoes. There's no way a mosquito would mate with them. So wait, and then I researched it. No, totally bogus story. But people tell you these things and say it with fervor because they truly believe it. I believed it until I went, wait a minute, and researched it. So please research. This is why I keep telling you about this. You have to know your sources. Always check your sources. Read the entire article. Look for more sources. If there is only one paper, it doesn't count. Because I promise you, if it's actual news, it's not going to be only one person who knows. It's not going to be only one network who knows. You have to actually look, because there will be many, many, many. Look at who's funding it. I use dairy as an example because it's the first time I noticed it. I was reading an article about the health benefits of milk, and totally valid. There are some very good health benefits to milk. There really are, pasteurized. And it was saying all these negative things against plant-based milk, which is what rose the red flag for me. And then I went to the bottom of the article where it looked at funding, and the entire research was funded by the American Dairy Association. So that let me know this is a biased paper. So when you are trying to find something out, you have to look for that. Who's paying for it? Can you find more elsewhere? Always look for more than one source. You have to be able to, if this person says it, you have to be able to prove it from other places or it doesn't count. This is a science class, so you have to find multiple sources for absolutely everything. And they cannot all come back to just the same one thing. There was something years ago about plant-based meat, like Morningstar Farms and stuff. And it was like, it's your vegetarian meat isn't really vegetarian, blah, blah, blah. Everybody sent me this. And people were sending me the stuff. I'm looking for it. I'm finding all these different articles about it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, is this real? Until I looked at the end of all of the articles I looked, all went back to the same one source, which had no validity. So even if you're finding something in 4 different places, if all 4 of them are going back to the same one thing and no one else is verifying that one thing, it is not valid. So please remember that. So when you're writing your paper, when you're trying to educate yourself, when you are doing exactly what I'm begging of you to do and challenging all of your beliefs, make sure you're looking at multiple sources. If you want to hear Republicans are perfect, look at a Democrat thing to find out what they're saying. If you want to say Democrats are perfect, look at some of the Republican things. Do not fall under the false part, the fallacy. There you go, the fallacy where you are only looking in the area that will agree with you. That is not educating yourself. Later, I tend to challenge people to do this thing where you will have to try to prove yourself wrong. That is the best way to learn something. If you truly believe something, try to prove to yourself that you're wrong. Look everywhere that will tell you how wrong you are. And that is where you will get the most education. Do not just stick to the sources that will agree with you, because you will never learn if everything you look at just agrees with you. Try to prove yourself wrong, and you will learn so much more. So that's it for this lecture. I have almost no voice now. And yeah, I love doing this in person. I really do kind of wish that we could still do this in person, but at least I'm not pacing in front of you the whole time. So there we go. I said quite a few times in here that if you have questions, reach out, ask, shoot me a message. Seriously, do it. I would rather answer 27,000 questions and help people understand something than somebody think they shouldn't ask it. So please shoot me a message and ask me anything. And that's it, I guess. So peace out.